What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. Back after a couple week hiatus. As always, I'm Jack Bushman, joined by Ross Baran. A beefy episode here today. Lots to break down. Lots of news coming out here this afternoon regarding the 2025 Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black. Also got to dive into Davis Thompson's breakthrough victory this past weekend at the John Deere Classic and my neck of the woods, as well as the continued impressive play by Michael Thorbjornsen and Luke Clanton. And we got 3 tournaments this week, Ross, leading up to the final major championship of the year. So it's going to be a jam-packed show. To everyone who's tuning in right now, make sure to go and jump on over to the YouTube feed so you can interact with us, share your takes, let us know who you're going to be tailing this week for the Scottish Open, the Isco Championship, LIV Valderrama. There's lots going on. Ross, before we get all into that, brother, how was your 4th of July weekend? You spend it with some good family time?
Oh, family time on the course, around the pool, you name it. We just kind of laid low. Got a lot of time in the sun. Watched the JD in the background the whole time, and it led to returning to the normal work life today, which, let's be honest, just sucked. So
the Monday Scaries did admittedly hit a little bit harder here today. And for your boy, it was not the most lay low, relaxing weekend. I can't lie. I had a good buddy of mine get engaged on Friday and had a slew of other college friends come up to Chicago. And then another good friend of mine had a housewarming party on Saturday. So a lot of celebrating, a lot of drinks flying left and right. Led to a lot of downtime yesterday watching Davis Thompson. Fortunately, for all the money that I spent this weekend, Davis Thompson managed to recoup that and then some with my second victory in the last 4 weeks. Davis Thompson's breakthrough victory, though, Ross, in the John Deere just continues to serve as that breakout moment for so many big name players, and I believe Davis Thompson is well on his way to being a more established household name on the PGA Tour. A very successful background as an amateur, a number 1 ranked amateur in 2021, standout at the University of Georgia, and a Sea Island resident, and that's a hub for tons of professional golfers, Ross. And we've heard a lot of stories throughout the years of people saying how good this Davis Thompson kid is going to be. We've really seen him find his footing over these last couple of weeks. And then, of course, pulling through for win number 1 in Silvis. Kind of give me your takeaways to Davis Thompson coming through with that first win and your all-in-all thoughts from the John Deere initial reaction.
So John Deere, once again, does not let us down. We unfortunately lost our interview with Barry from last week. But one of the things we talked about is how the John Deere embraces itself as that launch pad for new up-and-coming stars. They know this is where a lot of the guys get their first breakthrough. They get that first big win chalked off. This is the 24th different winner of this event, where it's just incredible. And my reasoning for Davis Thompson winning, he's the only player that kind of went out this week and consistently put out a low round over the 4 days. The way that the course was set up, the way it played, is the opportunity to go low was there every single day if you played it correctly. He's the only guy that really went out and did it all 4 days in a row. That there was a low, respectable round every single day. I mean, we had Hayden Springer shoot a 59 to open and just not even be heard of after, because he didn't back it up. He shot even par the next day, where like that is not the formula that wins at John Deere. It never is. You have to go low consistently every day, and you find yourself at the top of the board going into Sunday afternoon. Davis Thompson did it right. He did it correctly. Congratulations to him on his first win. And I think he is going to be one of the people that we need to watch moving forward as a potential superstar in the making, if he can just continue to put it all together. But huge breakthrough win for him finally.
Yeah, just he had been trending in that direction, but this, I feel like, is really going to open up the doors for possibilities and just that mental confidence that he can do it now. And one of the, things I wrote in my article, Ross, quick selfless plug to myself here. One of the reasons I was so high on Davis was because I felt like it was going to come at some point. He's too talented. He's finally putting everything together. If you go and look at his stats from the past few weeks, it wasn't just like it was the approach that was popping or the putting. It's been the full game, all four areas, and that was really on display, like you said, throughout the 4 rounds to help him go low every single day. And the course was soft. And I mean, the broadcast basically said it was perfect scoring conditions every single day out there. And Davis Thompson took advantage and got off to that blazing start on Sunday to really just kind of blow everyone out of the gate early and, made that 50-footer on one. I think he was 4 under through his first 5 holes. It got down to 3 shots at one point on the back 9, but never really felt like he was in that much jeopardy. And one thing that really stood out to me, Ross, and I'm sure a lot of people have or had this takeaway of Davis Thompson, no emotion whatsoever out there. You can tell he's just on his path in his own lane, very straightforward, point A to point B. It reminds me of Patrick Cantlay, and I don't mean that as an insult to old Davis Thompson. And I know the narrative and the thoughts around Patrick Cantlay, but his demeanor out on the golf course is very Patrick Cantlay-like in terms of whether good nor bad. You're not really going to get a whole heck of a lot most of the time out of Davis Thompson. But one thing I've just kind of learned with being out there on the course, you just get different types of guys. There's just different types of players. You get some of those guys who are, in the middle of the round doing fist pumps. You have Bryson out there hyping people up. Not everyone can do that. There are different personalities out there on the PGA Tour, and Davis Thompson's game, well-roundedness, and his demeanor out there on the course really reminded me of Patrick Cantlay this past week.
I can 1,000% see it, and it was one of those things. You hit it on the head. The first hole where he knocks down the birdie, Aaron Ride bogeys out of the gate. You could see Davis Thompson just kind of sit there and stay calm, cool, collected. And the immediate vibe I got within the first couple holes is he knows exactly what is going on. He knows where he is.
Present.
He is going to make these guys come catch him today. That he doesn't have to do anything drastic. He's not changing anything in his routine. He's going up, same pre-shot routines, everything. And you could just see it. No nerves, anything, just all stones of, I have a 4-shot lead right now. Come catch me. And he played the entire round that way, which was perfect. And it is that very Patrick Cantlay-esque thing of zoned in, one lane, own little world, not paying attention to everything else. You kind of present in the moment, know where you are, what's happening. And he just kind of, I don't want to say put it in cruise control. He played the course how he wanted to play the course. And he just made it I'm leading the ship by 4 or 5 shots right now. So they got to come catch me if they want to take it from me. And he just kind of continued down that road.
100%. And what really impressed me too was he didn't compound issues. His driver, he was hitting it right, particularly on that front 9. But the rest of his game, he didn't get nervy. He stayed in that steady, calm, cool, and collected mode and just stepped up and hit the next shot. Wasn't worried about what happened with the last one. He just didn't compound issues and really, really got the most out of his round early to kind of cement his name onto the trophy before the thing really got over, because it was pretty clear that Davis Thompson was going to come away with that thing. You mentioned Aaron Rye. Bogey out of the gate on Sunday once again. And Aaron Rye, he's been playing phenomenal golf for the past month. He's basically been on right around the top of the leaderboard going into Sunday for the last 4 weeks now. But the Sundays have just caught up to him. And the putter has been a huge addition to why Rye's gotten in contention. He hasn't found a way to get it going, though, on Sunday yet. I'm just curious. We don't have to get into a full conversation about the Scottish yet. We're going to save that for last. But I was just wondering your thoughts on Aaron Rye going into this week, the Scottish Open, one of the 2 places he's won on the DP World Tour, still looking for that first PGA Tour win, comes so close the last few weeks and has had the game through 54 holes, hasn't had it enough through 72. The way I kind of feel about it, Ross, personally, is if you're someone who's been backing Aaron Rye in the betting market these last few weeks, you can't stop now. Whereas I really haven't been on him the last 4 weeks, so I don't know if I'm necessarily going to get there. What are kind of your thoughts on Aaron Rye's lackluster Sunday again and his chances this week in Scotland?
Well, first of all, Aaron Rye with the 2 gloves looks like he's a hitman.
No, literally, dude. We call him the double glove assassin, dude. And he's out there, dude. He's a psycho, kind of a low key golf psycho.
He looks like in between walking in between walking in the tee boxes, like he's gonna take someone out of the crowd and just dispose of discreetly in that little walk. For me, Aaron Rye is the complete opposite of Davis Thompson. Aaron Rye could be a hot take. People can come at me all they want. I think has a 54 hole brain. I just don't think he has the nerves, the mentality yet. I think it's one of those things where, just like Akshay has admitted in the past, like, I got nervous, like I'm human. I think that's still Aaron Rye on this big stage. I think he plays himself into that moment. And I think when it comes to that moment, it still just kind of gets to him and wears him down where he can't put it all together on Sunday. And there is no knocking that. Like, golf is a mental game. It's extremely hard. Like, dude, you played amazing for 54 holes. You just need the experience of consistently playing in the final group or a second to last, penultimate group on Sunday is going to get you your breakthrough. But I just feel like mentally it's not all there yet. I think this experience he's had over the past month is definitely going to help. But I think it becomes apparent over the course of a round that at some point the moment starts to get to him a little bit. The mistakes kind of add up. And, unfortunately for him this week, it was like the first hole. Davis drains one from 50 feet. What do? You bogey. And now he's walking away. He already had a 3-shot lead going into that. Now you're walking away. Now you're chasing 4. And you could just kind of pick up that vibe, like where he was like, here we go again. And then he just kind of cruise controlled the day where, it felt where Davis was kind of flowing through, making it look easy, up and down, in and out. Aaron Rye just kept giving me the vibe like, oh, he's trying just to get out of here with like a 4 right now. Versus, Davis is getting in and out with a 3. Aaron feels like he's struggling to pull a 4. Like it's just not adding up right now. And I think that's where he is. Personally, I'm not on him again this week. I have nothing against him moving forward. I'd like to see, I guess I would phrase it as maybe when he wins one, I'll take it a little more seriously, but I just have that nerve thing on Sunday just kind of keeps me away where I haven't been on him yet. I do appreciate the game and the performances he's putting up, but I don't think I'm going to be on him yet again.
Yeah.
I think I need to see a little more. The nerves on Sunday are kind of my push away for me at this time.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'm just not really inclined to get there. I haven't been there yet. I will say, I'll probably, if he doesn't pull through for win number 1, I'll probably be looking at him in the fall if he plays there at all. I feel like these experiences could bode well for a situation like that where maybe he's not going up against a young player like Davis Thompson and a couple of other guys who played well on Sunday to vault up the leaderboard and get their names into contention. Michael Thorbjornsen. It's not going to be the first. I'm not going to be the first one to butcher that last name, and I won't be the last. There'll be a lot of people doing that on the broadcast. And Luke Clanton, man, continuing to do it this week at the John Deere Classic. Again, taking advantage of the opportunity presented ahead of them. Both making charges not only to get into the mix somewhat on Sunday, even though it always felt like Davis Thompson's, but to get in the running to qualify for the British Open, the Open Championship, the final major of the season. And I really feel like that was a miss by the broadcast during this final round because, like I mentioned, time and time again, it was pretty clear Davis Thompson was going to win this bad boy. He was going to have to unravel in order for that to not happen. It didn't look like that was going to be coming anytime soon. I thought it was a big miss by the PGA Tour broadcast, especially with these two young, marketable, up-and-coming players who a lot of fans have become accustomed to thanks to their performances over the last couple of weeks. And Clanton battling with Shipley down the stretch for the Loam at the U.S. Open, following it up at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Michael Thorbjornsen finishing atop the PGA Tour U rankings, the next guy after Ludwig Oberg. He's gotten off to a great start to his career. This would have been a real intriguing and easily marketable conversation. And it felt like, for whatever reason, it never got to the forefront of the teleprompter or what. But the broadcast was just leaning into the Davis Thompson show. And I understand you want to give him his flowers for the moment and what he just accomplished. But we all knew that was coming, and give this broadcast at least a little something. Give the people something else to be tuned into. What were your thoughts on that, Ross?
So I understand what they did with the broadcast, that this was Davis's coming out party. You know, he's finally putting it all together. But this tournament has marketed itself as a launch pad. And one of the things that they were big on was like, oh, we invited Luke Clanton, we invited Michael Thorbjornsen in for this because of who they are and their performances recently. We wanted them to be a part of what we do well, which is market new up and coming players. Davis got his light that he's very much deserved, but it's also the fact that you had two other unbelievable young up and coming players right there for the taking. You could have shined the light and had basically a trio of future potential tour stars right there, where, you know, in 10 years we could flash back to the 2024 John Deere and look at, holy shit, this Sunday, you know, we have Davis Thompson got number one, but look at Thorbjornsen and Luke Clanton were right there. Like, doing all this, we're going to we already know we're going to flash back on this probably in 10 years and go, holy shit, what a tournament that was.
Yeah.
Is it coming out party? And I feel like they only knocked out 1/3 of it.
It was a layup too. It was handed right to them, and they just completely missed. And, you know, congratulations to CT Pan for pulling through and qualifying. That's amazing. But man, you had two marketable up and coming guys who really feel like they're going to be potential staples of this game for a long, long time. And you referenced too, Ross, like, this is going to be one of those leaderboards that we look back at, like in like the 2029 John Deere Classic, and we're like, holy shit, look at that top five or that top four right there. And we're not going to have like any incredible broadcast clips to pull from because they weren't even really talking about it. And, you know, we had the awesome Luke Clanton fist pump on 18 after he made that putt. I think he finished with 4 birdies in his final 5 holes to even put himself in that conversation. And then also just like with how well these kids handle themselves in this situation too. And just hearing Luke Clanton in particular talk with the media and just how grateful he is for this opportunity and how special it is for his family. Like, these are easy guys for people to root for, man. So, yeah, I was really disappointed by that at the broadcast. It was an alley-oop slam dunk thrown to Shaquille O'Neal. Go and yam that biddy home, and they didn't.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie that I had Thor on the card this week at 55, and when we got into that 6 birdie switch, or just flip, when he flipped that switch, I'm not gonna lie, it was twitching a little bit, sitting on the couch at home, like, okay, here we go. There's a very nice number on my board right now, and he's getting closer and closer. And then he bogeyed, and I was like, all right, well, we had like an hour and a half of entertainment here. But again, the tour just a moment ago. A moment ago, Thorbjornsen birdies his 5th consecutive. Then we go like 20 minutes, and then a moment ago, he birdies his 6th consecutive. And then finally they like focus on him, and it's like, oh, and this is the hole that he bogeys, and now it's dead. All right.
And it's like, dude, come on. At this point, there's 4 guys who we got to be seeing every shot from. Like, it's really not that hard.
Yep.
So typical disappointing. I also, last final thing that I have from the John Deere Classic, Ross, which has been kind of a hot topic in the golf community, if you will, and that's around the feat of shooting 59. As we saw it for, I think this, what was it, the second time in 16 days, 17 days, something like that on the PGA Tours. Hayden Springer opened up the John Deere Classic with a 59, birdies 18 to get it done, which was all the more impressive. And then Cameron Young obviously shot 59 at the Travelers a couple weeks prior as well. And there have been some takes thrown out there about 59 not being as meaningful as an accomplishment as it used to be and not being kind of a standalone achievement no longer. I'm interested, Ross, what are kind of your thoughts on the amount of 59s that are kind of starting to happen, not only just on the PGA Tour, but around the game of professional golf comparatively to what it was, 20, 30 years ago, and also your thoughts on accomplishing the feat and what it means still.
So I know it's a hot button topic, but especially like when it's tour centric, did you see the list of names? Like when they post, like obviously you have Furyk standalone 58, but when they show the list of like when this feat is accomplished, everyone makes a big deal about it. Guys, look at the fucking list. It happens like, at least on tour standards, it happens like once to twice every 3 to 4 years. We'll have like, when you looked at the previous list, it's showing, oh yeah, we had Hayden Springer and Cam Young and like 2 fucking weeks apart, whatever. The previous one is 4 years ago. And then the ones before that are 3 years before that. And then the ones before that are like 3 or 4 years before that. And it breaks all the way down. Like, I get it. This year between like Korn Ferry and LIV and PGA, there's been a lot of 59s shot. I get it. But can it be like a circumstance of a happenstance? Like, hey, the game is constantly improving, right? People are getting better and better. They're with the length, everything, they're able to play courses shorter than ever, post lower scores. But it's not like, yes, we've had several instances of a 59 this year. I get it. But it's like, look at the track record overall. It doesn't happen super often. It's actually kind of cool that we're having this one breakout year where all of a sudden people are going low, left and right, all over the place, all different tours, all over the world, that we're seeing it. But when it goes by like professional PGA Tour standard, we get occurrences of this shit like every 3 or 4 years. 1 or 2 people will go low over the course of the season, and it's a cool little moment. Kind of sucks that we have this short little gap, like you said, where it's literally 16 days in between it. But the previous 59s were 3 or 4 years ago, guys. Like, get over it.
I quite honestly think it's been completely overblown. Like, I don't care where you shoot 59 at. That's a goddamn impressive accomplishment. You should be proud of that. It is a rare feat. I don't understand why people are salty about it. And I think it's only a natural progression of the modern day athlete, especially considering just how much golf has changed in the last 10 to 15 years with the vast amount of information you can get back to you just in a heartbeat that has never been provided to the modern day golfer. We know about all the equipment, the less spin on the ball. You have more control over the golf ball than ever. And it's still, at least on the highest level, it's still a rare feat. And like you said, yes, it does kind of, I think, get people to feel differently when it happens twice in such a short span. But I think people get confused like this is going to be a trend that's going to continue happening, when I think we should be a little wary on that, like pump the brakes on that. And I know 59s are happening.
Breaking news. 59 is still really fucking hard to do.
Yeah, breaking news, 59 is still really cool. I don't care what anyone says. It's you would think that guys are doing it left and right on the PGA Tour with the way that some people talk about it. And listen, maybe it's truly not as remarkable as it once was. That still doesn't make it unoutstanding. It's still remarkable in and alone of itself. So I was just curious how you felt about that, because it has been a hot take issue in the golf community. I felt it was only right to bring it up with the John Deere Classic on display this week. Hayden Springer shooting 59. I think that's going to take care of a phenomenal another tournament down in the Quad Cities. And it is unfortunate, Ross, that we lost that conversation with Barry. For those who aren't aware of what we were talking about, Barry is the media director of the John Deere Classic, and we had him on the show, and a lot of the time that we spent talking with him was about Michael Thorbjornsen, Luke Clanton, Neil Shipley, these amateurs getting an opportunity here, why it's so important for them to present that opportunity, and it played out beautifully. So very frustrating that our conversation with Barry unfortunately got lost to the void, but I have a feeling Barry is going to be coming back on the show sometime in the not so distant future. He's going to be a good friend of ours for a long time, and hopefully that one won't get deleted by accident. But I think that's going to wrap up everything from the John Deere. Ross, we got some other big news to talk about. The biggest news coming out of today regarding the 2025 Ryder Cup, and it was a hectic 45 to 50 minute stretch where I didn't know what was happening, but every news break that was getting released was just getting more and more shocking. First, there were rumblings that Tiger was not going to be the captain for the United States at the 2025 Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black. And kind of just considering the options left on the table for the United States, Tiger really made the most sense for many different reasons. And I think most of us, even though there hadn't been that confirmation, and the lack of confirmation was certainly a little eye-opening as to like, why isn't this done yet? I think we all still held out hope that Tiger was going to be the one that ultimately wound up captaining this thing. We got the official news that he turned it down this morning, and then all eyes turned to Stewie Sink, my boy. It looked like he was going to be captain for about 40 minutes there. And then in even crazier news, I would say, just because in terms of how the Ryder Cup has gone about these selections, seemingly out of left field, Keegan Bradley gets named the United States Ryder Cup captain after getting snubbed by Zach Johnson last year. And he took, the good old boys group and Ricky and JT and Spieth and Sam Burns, not part of that group in particular, but was also an interesting choice over Keegan Bradley. Zach Johnson, Jordan Spieth, and Justin Thomas, interestingly enough, all had their hands in the mix here to get Keegan Bradley to being the next captain. Ross, take me through this wild hour from your perspective, how it was looking, how it wound up, and kind of your take on Keegan being the youngest captain to do it for the Americans since Arnold Palmer.
So I think I just kept hitting refresh at my desk today, and it was like every time I would hit it, I'd have to like do a double take on the screen, where first I log on and see it's like, oh, Tiger's gonna decline, and I was like, oh shit, well, I've been writing about that story forever, like that's dead. And then all of a sudden it turns into this window of it's gonna be probably Stewie Sink. And then I had like this whole like internal argument of like, it makes sense, but after last year's just absolute trouncing, like that seems like a really lame duck pick to go with right now. And like that's no direct shots at Stewie Sink. Just I feel like we needed some pop after last year and Rome, and that just felt like a real cookie cutter pick. Like, oh, we don't have Tiger, well, give it to Stu. And then all of a sudden I'm clicking and Keegan, what? And then just my mind started racing, and I'm clicking through everything, trying to read everything, and I felt like that classic meme where I sat there for like 2 minutes, like, and then was like,
the Miami Heat guy on the bench, who's shaking his head and then goes,
yeah. And then I was like, okay. And then the more I've thought about it, the more I kind of love it. And I like the direction, the kick in the ass that Team USA for the Ryder Cup is giving. I don't know if you saw their post with Keegan's comment. No one loves this event more than Keegan. No one takes this event more serious than Keegan. The man still hasn't opened up his suitcase in 12 years from the last time, and is still waiting for that opportunity because he hasn't been victorious. I think this is a great move. I think this is a perfect move in the right direction for them. And it's unprecedented. I mean, he's still in the prime of playing. There's a realistic chance Keegan could play himself onto his team.
I know that, and that was the craziest part about all of that. Before I'll let you talk about some of the other things that you like in particular about this. That was just I think the initial shock of it is what really rattled everyone. It wasn't
Yeah.
really about Keegan being like so much Keegan. It was just the fact that the United States kind of went in this separate direction that nobody really thought they were going in. And as you said, the more I kind of thought about it, the more I came to grips with I like Keegan Bradley in this spot. And I do agree with you as well that Stuart Sink, I would have been happy because I am, for anyone who's been a longtime follower of Golf on Tap, I am a Stewie Sink guy at heart. All right. I love the tan line. I love the Texas wedge at all times. With that being said, it had the potential to be another lame duck sort of pick. And I think coming back to the United States, they really needed that rah-rah guy to kind of shake this thing up and get this team in the proper place to win. And I think Keegan Bradley is going to be in a really good spot to do that because for the same reasons why he didn't get picked last year, he ain't part of that boys group. He knows about the clicks on the PGA Tour. And look how well that did the squad in Rome. They got their asses handed to them. And it was embarrassing, more embarrassing than the broadcast coverage of the Ryder Cup. That's how pathetic the United States were. And it just can't happen again. And going to the Northeast, where Keegs is going to be in his comfort spot, he's going to be treated like royalty. And you know he's going to be gunning for blood. And he wants to unpack that motherfucking suitcase. He's going to do what it takes to win. I firmly believe that. And that's what should always be the mentality going into Ryder Cups. It's winning them. No one cares about anything else. Win the damn thing. And I think Keegan's going to do everything in his power to accomplish that goal. It's not going to be, we're going to have you playing. It's going to be, I'm going to put the best team together. I'm going to put guys together who I think are going to win. So that's why I've really come to grips with this selection over the last few hours and got past that. Keegan, this guy could be playing in this thing. What are we doing? I've come to grips with it. And I think he is a proper shakeup for a little bit of a flawed system that the United States has clearly had for these last few years. And while the United States, like we've seen as they've been on American soil the last couple of times, they got that talent, but it's always felt like Team Europe's been the better structured, better analytical, team-based squad between the two sides. And I hope Keegan Bradley will be a step in that direction for the United States because it's much needed and much overdue.
Well, I mean, the first thing you have to take a look at is in Rome, Team Europe was a well-oiled machine. They had the right guy at the helm. He did such a freaking good job. They brought him back. Luke Donald's doing it, running it back at Bethpage in 2025. This is why the United States needed a shakeup because they are going to come back and they are on foreign soil. They are going to be a well-oiled machine again. Luke Donald showed he knew exactly how to coach and run this tournament with his players. And I think Keegan's the perfect fit because it does not matter if you're boys club, whatever. Keegan is going to look at, I don't care what tour you're on. I don't care where you're playing. What country do you represent? I'm hoping it's what country do you represent? Oh, USA? You're on my team. And that is going to be the squad that he brings over to where I'm really hoping the olive branch we get is Keegan having the lack of leadership is the only thing that makes me a little nervous. I'm hoping he does the olive branch and he brings Phil. I hope he names Phil an assistant. That
to me is a must. If Phil Mickelson isn't there, it's a shame. It is an absolute shame because this was, supposed to be his one. This was the one that a lot of people had him versus Poulter at Bethpage 2025. And now, obviously, there's been the whole LIV drama that is still ongoing. And Lord, please do not still have that be ongoing by September 2025. Please do not. Golf will be an absolute nightmare if that thing is still going on a year plus from now. But it's only natural to have Phil there. And I think it makes so much sense for many different reasons. As you alluded to, Keegan does have that little lack of experience, right? 2 Ryder Cups, both a long time ago, a President's Cup ever since. But he played real well with Phil Mickelson. He and Phil were never the reasons why the United States why they dropped the last time that Keegan played in a Ryder Cup in 2014, hence the unpacked bag. They always played well and meshed well together as a good duo. And they're both going to be beloved by that New York Northeastern fan base up there. They're both going to be treated like royalty. The New Yorkers, I mean, Phil Mickelson low-key is a guy who has like 8 different homes on the PGA Tour, right? There's like 8 different places you can call home. But New York has always felt like a place where the people have loved Phil Mickelson. And he adds that veteran experience. He'll add that fire and that knowledge. I know he's a little bit of a polarizing figure, and he's even said that's, maybe why a reason he wouldn't be good in this spot. I actually think he'd provide that electric factor that I don't know if Keegan will necessarily present that, but Phil can definitely help ramp it up. I feel like there's only positives to Phil Mickelson being part of that captaincy along with Keegan. It'll be a natural fit, and it makes a lot of sense in the Northeast.
Yeah, I wrote up an article earlier that should go out some point later tonight covering all this, but I think that is a dynamic duo in the waiting if we can get it. Just the, like you said, the playing history between the two, the chemistry between the two, it feels like a natural good fit to have someone like Phil on that staff for him. And I think this shakeup is going to be what Team USA needs overall. I think moving forward, we are going to see the best 12. The best 12 playing their best golf are going to represent the United States, as it should be.
100%. Looking forward to seeing how this is all going to unfold over the next few months as we continue to hear details stemming from all of this, and the buildup will only get bigger and bigger. The last thing I have for you on this, Ross, is talk to me a little bit about Tiger saying no. What was kind of your intake from that decision ultimately when so many people felt like that was going to be the natural fit here for the USA?
So everything I've seen is Tiger just turning it down because of his involvement right now with the PGA Tour and working with the transaction committee, everything to get an actual deal done. It looks like that's his main focus at this point in time and what he's devoting his time to, which I get it. I mean, it's unfortunate because I think we would all love to see Tiger captain at Bethpage, but I get it. There's a larger over looming circumstance that needs to be rectified first. And I just like coming around on Keegan as the decision. It's also been the same thing over the course of the day for me with Tiger's decision that, yes, there is a very big elephant still in the room to be addressed. And I like the idea that that's going to be the focus and we're going to drive that one home first before he comes back around.
Okay, that makes sense. And it is a pretty goddamn big elephant. And like I just said, that bad boy needs to be solved. I mean, shoot, before next summer, before next spring. Come on, fellas. It's been going on for way too long. And as you've written up many times and talked about here on the show, it feels like we have the right pieces in order to finally strike this thing finalized, right? So hopefully that'll be coming sometime sooner rather than later. But any final thoughts from a chaotic news day regarding the United States Ryder Cup team, Ross, before we get into the 3 tournaments this week?
I'm just fucking pumped, man. And I want to see Keegan open that goddamn suitcase.
I do too. I'm pumped for my boy Keegs. And any success for Keegs is always followed with a smile on my face. And man, it'll be quite a scene up there if he's able to bring the Ryder Cup back to the United States. He is going to be treated like a prince by those New Englanders up there. So definitely looking forward to that.
I was laughing at all the memes being posted. Could you imagine Keegan making that call to Zach Johnson? Hey, fuckface, remember how you left me off your team? Well, I took your job.
Twitter never disappoints. Shout out to Patrick McDonald, who I thought had one of my favorite personal tweets of the day. It was the Denzel scene where they're pointing the gun at him. He goes and takes it and snatches it back. And I was like, whoa, easy. That was probably my favorite tweet of the day. But there were many good ones out there surrounding this chaotic news drop for the United States Ryder Cup team. Speaking of chaotic and hectic, that's what we're going to get in the world of professional golf this week as we build up to the final major championship of 2024, the Open at Royal Troon, But first, we got the Genesis Scottish Open here this week, Ross, which is once again co-sanctioned between the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour for the third consecutive year. It's back at the Renaissance Club, where it's been held since 2019. It's been an interesting group of winners here over the years. We've seen Aaron Rai break through, as I alluded to earlier, Bernd Wiesberger, Rory McIlroy as a bomber. It's kind of played a little bit differently in terms of when it was only a DP World Tour event and now the PGA Tour as a lead up to the Open. There's been a lot of good players who have filled up this field and made things a little bit more difficult in terms of field strength in order to get to the top of the leaderboard. And that's what we're getting again this year, man. 18 of the top 30 in the official world golf ranking are at the Renaissance Club in North Berwick, Scotland, to get ready for the Open Championship. Scotty Scheffler, though, is not one of them. And whenever Scotty Scheffler's not in the field, feels like an opportunity to go and take one down. But Ross, this has been, I think, actually a perfect appetizer to go into the Open Championship. I really like the co-sanctioned events. I think it gives us more of a look at the guys on the DP World Tour who we don't get to see all that often or maybe aren't as familiar with. And quite honestly, I think it's something that they should do a little bit more. And honestly, I wouldn't even hate if they took some of these high-end DP World Tour guys and had a path for them to get into some signature events maybe on the PGA Tour, because I feel like there's a really good exposure. And also, you sometimes see guys pop up these 2 weeks when the PGA Tour goes across the pond for the Open Championship. And it feels like they haven't really leaned into the DP World Tour ever since it's kind of taken a step back, with a lot of players going to LIV Golf and whatnot over the last couple of years. But I think it's a really good spot on the schedule. I like these unique courses. Tom Doak is the designer of the Renaissance Club. It's not necessarily a true links test. It's a little bit obviously newer since it was built in 2008, and a lot of the top courses in Europe are 100 years old. But one thing I do like about it that plays into next week and I think adds into the appetizing factor is the weather completely dictates the difficulty of the tournament. Like, we've seen Minwoo Lee win this at 18. We've seen Bernd Wiesberger get up to -22. We also saw Xander Schauffele win here at -7. And it really just depends on how hard the wind is gusting. Is it raining? What's the terrain playing like out there? What kind of shots you can have? So one thing I always try to keep in mind before placing all of my bets on this week, it's one little tidbit I like to give to the listeners and the viewers, is at least be mindful of what the weather and the forecast could look like, because depending on how the course plays, two different player types, I think, can kind of have a boost here. And I think the more difficult it plays, the more the weather impacts it, the more the short game is going to be important, whereas the easier it plays, driving distance and overall birdie making is going to take over. And with this course also only been featured on the PGA and DP World Tour for 6 years, it's kind of hard to get some data. So this is really just one of those weeks, Ross, that it's a mixed bag. It can go a couple of different ways, but I think that's what makes it interesting. And I'm interested to see your reasoning behind some of the guys that you've taken. Getting to the top of the board here, obviously there's Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele as the 2 under there, but then a lot of 2 under 10-1, excuse me. And then a lot of good players right behind them at low odds as well. Colin Morikawa, Ludwig Oberg, Victor Hovland. So take me through kind of your decision-making here at the top of the board, and also your thoughts on Rory McIlroy. It's his first start since the U.S. Open gag where he missed 2 short putts in the final 3 holes. Do you have any concerns about that stemming over this week for Rory, or do you think he's going to be plenty fine after 3 weeks of rest?
I honestly don't know, because we haven't heard shit from him in weeks now. So I don't know what we could get. A Rory that goes out and absolutely bombs and torches this place and defends a win and moves right on into the Open, or we could have a Rory that misses the cut.
I'm personally more inclined to think he's going to be fine. I think he's going to play well, but I'm not going to bet him at that number, especially when there's never been a defending champion at the Scottish Open. I'm out.
I took Rory, I took Xander, and I threw them in the trash this week. They are not part of this card. You will never get me to touch, especially 2 people under 10.
The only person I'm thinking about under 10 is Scotty Scheff at this point in time. Only guy I think
Yes.
deserves those numbers. So I'm in agreement with you at the top of the board there. I took those two guys. And I think Xander's a good fit here too. Obviously, he's won here. It's just the number. I can't get that. Can't get behind that low of a number.
Nope. The first number I took, and I only took this. I hate the number. I'll be honest. I hate the number, but I took this because I feel like this could be one of those spots, a little bit more of an elevated event on the tour schedule. Feels like he's been trending that way. Does he finally come through and break through? I did throw Colin on my card at 12.
Yeah, man, and I can't blame you. I cannot blame you. And I'm really scared that I'm going to miss it because there is no one on the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, whatever tour out there that is more due for a win than Mr. Colin Morikawa. I mean, he is playing remarkably consistent golf. The irons are back. The driver is back. And, oh yeah, all of a sudden, Colin Morikawa can now chip and putt. I mean, he's chipping and putting better than he ever has throughout his career while starting to return to being one of the best iron players in the world again. Yeah, he's the one I'm definitely the most scared of at the top. I personally haven't bet anyone under 28-1. It would be Colin for me, though, if there was one. I do wonder if he's going to be very comfortable on this course. He's only played here once and he missed a cut. And that's actually, Ross, if you remember, when he complained about the turf over in Europe and no one wanted to bet him the next week. And then he went on and won the Open Championship in his debut there. I don't know if that is true or going to play a factor whatsoever. It was just kind of enough to get me off Colin Morikawa at 14-1 though. But like I said, no one's due for a win more than this guy. A little scared that I'm gonna miss it. But if he's anywhere in contention this week, I'll probably be there for the Open next week.
After that, we move a little bit further down. Another one that just coming on feels like we're getting closer and closer and overdue for a breakthrough. I have Viktor Hovland at 20.
Questions around Viktor Hovland. My thought process around Viktor is I feel like he's gonna play well this week and gonna play well next week, or he's gonna play bad this week and he's gonna play bad next week. And I feel like because of that, you're either going to be early on Viktor or you're going to be late on Viktor. Like that's just my personal take on him. And I don't think I'm going to get there on him at the Open Championship next week. So I personally just passed, but I would understand it as he's finally starting to round into form and show us that he's one of the best players on tour again. The around the green has started to come back to life. He's showing signs for sure. I just ultimately ended up passing because you can't bet them all.
And then we're going to move a little further down. I believe this is where you and I are completely lined up the remainder of the card. Move a little bit further down. Tom Kim, 25.
Who's been maybe as close to being as due as Colin Morikawa? I would say it's Tom Kim. I would say he's right up in there in that conversation. And golly, anyone besides Scotty Scheffler, I think, on his tails that Sunday at Travelers, Tom's going to find a way to come away with it. Can't really blame him, though. Scotty Scheffler has beaten everyone else plenty of times already this season. And quite honestly, I think missing the cut in Detroit and getting that little break after, what was it? He played 9 or 10 weeks in a row. And I know he's young and I know he's capable and he's all glitter-eyed and just happy to be out there. But you got to feel like that fatigue was starting to catch up with him a little bit. And dude, I mean, he's got a spectacular track record here. He's got a spectacular track record over in Europe, the Irish Open in the past. He's played well on link-style courses. His game has impressively translated all over the globe at a young age. The putter and the around the green have been much better comparatively to what they were at the beginning of the year for too many reasons. I'm 100% in with you on Tom Kim. I got him at 28-1 at FanDuel. I think that number is still out there.
From there, we move on to one you and I talked about off camera, that unless you are a true sicko, a lot of people do not realize that this person plays this type of course unbelievably well, and I could not stay off of the very forgiving number of 45-1. I have Wyndham Clark.
Quite honestly, the courses where Wyndham has played well this year in particular have not been the setups where maybe you think because of his prowess with the driver, like at major championships or the Memorial, the PGA Championship, even Quail Hollow, where we saw him win last year, that hasn't really translated this year. It's been kind of the shorter courses where Wyndham can bomb it, where he's been better at. The Travelers, he had a high-end finish at RBC Heritage, Pebble Beach. All those, if you like thought about what would be good Wyndham Clark courses going into this year, you wouldn't list any of those. But that's kind of what you get here at the Renaissance Club. It's only a 7,300 yard course. It's not the longest in the world. For a par 70, it's decently long. But Wyndham, his driving distance is one of the best in the entire field. And if it plays easier, we know that he can be a birdie maker that has that high upside. 60-1 for me, it was an easy click for Wyndham Clark, a guy who I know has the stones to play in contention on the weekend. It's a time and time conversation again. One of the guys who has like legitimate true winning upside that you get at those numbers. I lose a lot of bets from guys down in the 60s. I don't have confidence in many of them like I do that Wyndham Clark can pull through if he's got his best stuff going into the weekend.
He's like you said, he's got the stones. If Wyndham is anywhere near the top of the board going into the weekend, he is going to make noise. He always does.
I'd also like to point out real quick. This is just this narrative that I have built in my mind, Ross, but this is kind of how I go about things. And I think it's kind of how everyone goes about their selections. They build these narratives in in their minds that they can foresee playing out. And you get reasons throughout the week. You see guys, you find reasons why you like to bet on people. And I saw Wyndham Clark on Instagram had himself an excellent family fishing trip with his friends, looked super relaxed, and I feel like that puts him in a good headspace coming off of a solid start in his last time out, considering it's been a very disappointing, last 3 to 4 months for him, considering how strong his February and his March was, where he had those close calls at the Players and at the Arnold Palmer, losing out to only Scotty Scheffler in back-to-back weeks, right? And then also taking down the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. I think he's got a good headspace going right now. I think this is a good course for him. And I think 60 is a pretty darn good number. So I'm in agreement with you on Wyndham Clark, buddy.
And then my final one on the card this week, I was honestly shocked to find this number for this guy. After the performances we've seen this year at courses similar to this, as well as the performances at the majors, I have Mathieu Pavon on my card at 120-1.
Yeah, that's a really good number. And I'm looking at it right now on Odds Checker. It's been bet down a little bit. You can still get 100-1 out there on Mathieu Pavon, which feels like a really good number for a guy who was a stud on the DP World Tour before coming over here and playing full-time. It feels like he'll be plenty comfortable on these types of setups. We know he's got the upside. And one other reason why I was looking at him, Ross, is what we've kind of picked from him so far in a short time that we've seen him. He plays well in spurts. And obviously, the U.S. Open kind of seemed to spark this second wind of his here in his rookie PGA Tour season. I haven't bet Mathieu Pavon yet, admittedly, but he is definitely one I'm circling and thinking hard around down here. And again, I trust his upside in this type of field. I don't think the moment would be too big for him whatsoever.
Yeah, that was mainly my reasoning, is the track record, everything, the way he plays these types of events, the previous DP World Tour experience on these types of courses, playing all over Europe and all over the world. I thought it was a really nice fit for him, and just seeing that number almost felt disrespectful for the season he's put on this year. So 120-1 is on the card.
Definitely understand it. As far as what I've got so far here on Monday, I already mentioned Tom Kim 28, the Wyndham Clark 60. I did bet Justin Thomas as well at 45-1. And it's mostly because I think quietly he's been playing better in the non-majors this year. It seems like whenever he gets to that major level, it's been disappointment for him for basically the last 2 years now. But he's kind of been playing better than I think people are giving him credit for. And he just rates out extremely well in my model in a lot of different areas. The approach has really started to come back. He did not have a good performance at the U.S. Open, but outside of that, he's performing with his irons like the old JT. Yeah, there are concerns about the putter, but his tee to green prowess is there right now. And also, I haven't bet on JT since legitimately, I was thinking this earlier today. I was texting a buddy. I don't think I've bet on Justin Thomas since the 2023 Players Championship. I haven't bet on this guy in like a year and a half. And there have been a lot of people who have built up scar tissue on JT over that time period, burning money on him. I'm not one of those people. So I'm not like as tortured or like terrified by this guy as some people are. In the 45-1 number, I thought was more than fair. He doesn't have a good track record here at the Scottish Open, admittedly, but I don't know. There was just, again, a lot of good numbers in my model that I couldn't ignore. A lot of things in my model told me Davis Thompson last week, so I'm not going to ignore that. I'm also hovering around Sung J M, 45-1. There's this 40 to 50 pocket is really where I got to make my last decisions, Ross. I think Matt Fitzpatrick is a little interesting. I like Sung J. I like Brian Harman, and I like Corey Connors. I obviously can't bet all of those guys, but that's kind of where my final decisions are torn between right now. Other than that, I think I'm just going to take some 100-1 flyers, man. There's really not anyone in this 60 to 100 pocket that I'm remarkably enticed by other than Wyndham Clark, who I already talked about earlier. Someone who I did bet from way down, though, 150-1, Bernd Wiesberger, former champion here at the Scottish Open, and his tee to green numbers have been great all year long on the DP World Tour. It has now been bet down to 120 is what I'm seeing. So I feel like I got good value there and didn't have to put much money down for a guy who has been a good player throughout his career, a veteran, 38 years old, longtime player and winner on the DP World Tour. So I know he's capable of winning something like this. And then I have an absolute shot in the dark, Ross. And I got to pull up his odds to see what they're at right now. I got him at 500-1. It's Matteo Manassero. I don't know if you're familiar with Matteo Manassero at all. 500-1. And he's been playing really good golf recently. One perk of being a member at rickrungood.com is he gives you a bunch of projected course fits, and Matteo Manassero rates out really well on this course. On the DP World Tour, he's got a T7, a T10, and a T47 in his last 3 starts, all of which he is gaining a ton from tee to green. Do I worry about the putter? Yeah, absolutely. But I get this guy 500-1 in a putting contest who has legitimately some of the better irons on the DP World Tour in recent weeks. Won on the DP World Tour as well in Europe, played at the US Open, didn't make the cut, but good experience. T13 at the Soudal Open, like a lot of good results on the DP World Tour this year. And I feel like that was just kind of a misprint number for a guy who rated out well in my models too. Do I know a lot about Matteo Manassero? I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't. I just thought that was a misprint number, and I'm trying to find it right now, but it's definitely not as big as it was. I'm looking around the 500s, and I can't even find them in that range anymore. So it's definitely been bet down. It was just straight value. But sometimes you got to take chances like that. And I put $2 on him to win 1,000. So if you want a fun flyer this week, guys, Matteo Manassero, 500-1, if you could still find that number out there. That's all I got for the Scottish Open right now. As I referenced, my final decisions are going to be from that 40 to 60 pocket. I'm thinking Sung Jae, but I like Corey Connors, who's quietly been putting a lot better as well. Any final thoughts, though, Ross, before we move on to the alternate field event that's also going down this week?
Not right now. Big week and preparing for the final major of the year.
Absolutely. The grind don't stop. It is kind of a scary week for me, admittedly, to have extra monies in the account after Davis Thompson, because there's a shitload of golf going on, a shitload of places for me to go with it. And speaking of the alternate event, Ross, I think a lot of people woke up this morning and went, what? When they open up the odds for the Isco Championship, as it is now named, it is still going down at Keene Golf Club, I believe it is, in Kentucky. It used to be called the Barbasol. It is now the Isco Championship. And the reason why people probably went, what? When they opened up the odds board this morning for that bad boy is because Luke Clanton, amateur, top of the betting board, now at 10-1 on DraftKings Sports, Ross. 10-1. Michael Thorbjornsen obviously was right there with him and been there the last couple of weeks. At 18-1, we saw Carson Young pop up on Sunday at the John Deere Classic. He's 25-1. This odds board is absolutely bananas. I don't know if I've ever seen an odds board like this one. I don't think I've ever seen an amateur at the top of an odds board. But this is one where I think you either maybe go up top at one of the young guns or you take a lot of darts way down the board. I haven't made my mind up yet, but let me know your 2 cents here.
I took Luke Clanton and I threw that number out. I threw him out at 14 because that is just absolutely absurd. The one I did put money on was Thorbjornsen at 20, fair value number. I think that number is reflective of how he has been playing lately. I don't think people realize just how good he is. And especially coming off PGA Tour U, just like Ludwig did last summer. I don't think he's as good as Ludwig is going to be right away, but I think the potential is there. And I think his game already adds up right now. So I did throw him on my card, as I do think this is actually a very good spot for him to grab number 1 right out of the gate.
And I think comparatively, Michael Thorbjornsen to have double the odds than Luke Clanton. Give me Thorbjornsen in that situation. I mean, I could see why the 20 is like amazing comparatively to Clanton's 14, right? Like, and this is kind of a conversation we've had already. I'm a Luke Clanton fan. I've been a Luke Clanton fan since I first saw the kid on a Good video 3 years ago and heard the noise it made when he hit the golf ball. And it's been fun to watch his journey thus far. I feel like because of how good of a run Luke Clanton has been on, it's watered down a little bit how truly good Michael Thorbjornsen is. And I feel like I think they both have incredibly high ceilings, but I'm going to take Michael Thorbjornsen's, and he's older, he's more experienced, and I think he's the higher ceiling player. So, like, to see Luke Clanton with those odds and to see Thorbjornsen, I think it makes Thorbjornsen's feel even more fair comparatively, if that makes sense, right?
Yes.
100%. But there are some potential darts to be thrown at this Isco Championship. I don't know if I'm probably going to wind up taking some flyer, maybe like Carl Yuan, because he's a Twitter favorite. And if I miss out on the Carl Yuan win, that might be the end of me, Ross. Anyone else here catch my eye? I did hear this morning that Rico Hui was 75-1, and I think he's now down to 35. If I can find a big number on Rico, I'm going to probably one and done Rico and maybe Joel in this bad boy, just for shits and gigs. I don't think I'm going to get to the 2 big dogs at the top, though, personally. I don't blame you getting behind that Thorbjornsen 20, though, as I already outlined. Like, I think that's a good number. For me, though, it would probably be Rico and Joel Damon. Feels like a Joel spot now. He's been playing good.
Yeah.
Putt's got to fall for him on Sunday sometime, right?
Yeah, I took a long look at that one, too, just because we are Joel Damon stands here.
We are Joel Damon stands on this show. I mean, I don't even know if I can scroll into the hundreds in this one. Maybe I take one of the Cooties. Which one's been playing good? I forget. Is it Parker or is it Pearson? It's hard.
I think Pearson.
It's hard. Wes Bryant, 120-1. I'm out. But if I do have any actual bets from the Isco, I'll make sure to post that on social media as well. It'll probably only be Rico or Joel, though, I envision, unless someone convinces me to find some diamond in the rough in this bad boy. And maybe I'll go with the old double this week. I'll post some crazy parlay double, and if it hits, I'll go to the moon. Ross, there is LIV Golf this week as well, as they're in Valderrama. It's actually LIV Golf Andalusia, but it's at Valderrama in Spain. I don't really have any thoughts on this betting board as a whole, but I am curious, Ross, from LIV, who are you like keeping an eye on to see how they do this week to maybe, consider them as part of your card next week for the final major championship of the year? Who are the guys in particular from LIV? Bryson, obviously, Brooks. Are there any other guys, though, in particular who you're like really peering at going into this year's Open?
The only ones that catch my eye going into the Open are Tyrrell Hatton and Cam Smith.
Yeah, I would say Tyrrell Hatton for sure as well. I really do feel like that performance at Pinehurst, it's going to bode well for him in that next step of what really feels like a natural progression in his career, right? I know he didn't ever become a prolific winner on his time here with the PGA Tour, but it's clear that he's in that upper class of player. And, if his odds are in the 20s, it might be a little bit hard of a bet, but he is one of those guys from a little bit further down that I think could be capable. And on those types of setups, I'd be even more interested in. So I agree. In Tyrrell Hatton, who was I keeping a gander at? It wasn't Dick Bland, even though how incredible would it be if Dick Bland won the Open next week, Ross?
Oh, that's unbelievable.
Dick Bland goes on the all-time heater of heaters, and nobody thought it was ever possible. Cam Smith, though, really disappointed me at the U.S. Open. Do you think he's in the right place to compete in a major again, Ross, or do you think it was kind of a flash in the pan in a one good year? I have a hard time dissecting Cam Smith's seriousness since going to LIV.
At the end of the day, if the putting's on, you got to take him seriously.
The problem is his driver he literally hits his driver like an amateur. PGA champion, or since the PGA Championship, 3 measured starts. He's lost 6 strokes off the tee at LIV Houston, finished T48. T32 at the U.S. Open, where it was literally all chipping and putting. Minus 2.5 strokes off the tee at LIV Golf Nashville. He wasn't ever a good driver on the PGA Tour, but it was never like disastrous, man. I worry about Cam Smith. He is someone, though, that I could easily buy back into as well. But big week of golf all across the scene. 3 tournaments. There's Corn Ferry Tour going on this week as well. There is loads of golf going on. But that's got me even more amped up for the final major championship of the year, the Open next week. Ross, man, this season has just absolutely flown by. All of a sudden, we're at the home stretch, and the Olympics are about to be the next big thing that we're about to talk about here in a couple of weeks.
This is one of my favorite stretches of the year. The John Deere to Scottish to the Open. If you were a golf sicko, this is one of the best points of the year.
Absolutely. And the Olympics coming up right after. That's actually something I, in particular, am super, super excited for. I was really just kind of getting into my golf fandom and my knowledge of all the golfers the last time the Olympics were around. So I feel like this is going to be the first one where I've got like everything covered in that full perspective to really see everything unfold. So I would certainly agree. I think this is the beginning of, and even last week at the John Deere, we talked about how we personally believe it's a spectacular event. It deserves a little bit more luster to it. And maybe the PGA Tour even gets its head out of its rear end and goes on a rotating signature event schedule moving forward, because I think that would only make sense for a multitude of different reasons. But it's going to be an excellent home stretch to the PGA Tour season, Ross. Kind of crazy that we're already at this point in time, but still a lot of significant golf to play, not only a major championship, but guys are going to start fighting for their lives to make the FedEx Cup playoffs. That's been an interesting battle throughout the course of the season that, earlier on, we were talking about how a lot of the key players got to kind of get it going to get in good spots for the playoffs. I think we're still seeing that. So I'm excited to dive into that with you more these next couple of weeks, as well as all of these spectacular tournaments. But to everyone who tuned into this episode today, just wanted to say thank you very much. Do us a huge favor. Make sure you're subscribed to On Tap Sportsnet on YouTube, and go and follow Golf on Tap as well on X. You can find my account at Jack Bushman 2. You can find Ross at RossJohn22 as well. We greatly appreciate everyone tuning in, and be sure to go and follow Golf on Tap as well on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you may be able to get your podcasts. That way, if you're not able to catch up with us live, you're still able to tune in each and every episode. Ross, another good episode with you, my friend. Thanks for taking the time. Any final thoughts before we kind of dive on out of here? Did we cover everything that we needed to get to today? I know it was a lot. I just want to make sure I didn't skip over any of your key talking points that you wanted to get to.
Nope, I got nothing else.
I think we hammered it home. A lot of good content here today. Until next week, though, everyone, crack 'em, lock 'em. Have a great rest of your nights. Hope everyone had a great 4th of July weekend. From us here on Tap Sportsnet to you, have a good one. Thank you again.